Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the regular scheduled Taber Town Council meeting for Monday, June 26, 2023. I will call the meeting to order. Just to confirm, Councilor Bruin just arriving, and Councilor McLean is unable to attend today's meeting. Related to the agenda, there was an ask from administration to add item 10.4 to closed session. I believe you all get that material, and that's related to a proposed land sale subject to 16.1 of the Freedom of Information Protection Act. Somebody prepared to make a motion for adoption of the agenda, please. Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move the council adopts the agenda as amended to allow for the opportunity to undertake closed session items prior to the timing of delegations at 5 p.m. and for the addition of item 10.4, proposed land sale offer 4925 72nd Avenue, Taber, Alberta.
Thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 3, public hearings. There are none. Item 4, adoption of minutes. Item 4.1, minutes, regular council meeting, June 12th, 2023. Mr. Thibault.
Regular council meeting minutes in front of you. Administration has nothing to add.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Someone prepared to make that motion? Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move the council adopts the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on June 12th, 2023 as presented.
Thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. No business arising. Item 6, bylaws. No bylaws. Item 7, action items. Item 7.1, administrative professional of the year, urban. Mr. Thibault.
So we have Miss Lisa DeBona here. Mr. Mayor, if you could come down to the podium, there's a presentation to be made.
All right, thank you. Ms. Lisa DeBona, thank you very much for your many efforts and for the Administration Professional of the Year Award. Congratulations and thank you for all your many efforts and all the best in the future. Perfect. Thank you, Lisa. All right, someone prepared to make that motion. Councillor Rudd.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Lisa, for everything down behind the post there. On behalf of council, I'd like to congratulate you on the Administration Professional of the Year Award, and thank you for your contributions to the town's engineering and public works team. Job well done.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you again, Lisa. All right, on to item 7.2, Recycle Coach app. Mr. Thibault.
So we'll have Miss Megan Brennan come forward and she'll provide an explanation on the Recycle Coach app. I believe this is something that came out of the 3-bin system survey.
So because Lisa just won the award, you have to say yes, just so you know. But Mr. Thibault is correct that this is stemming from the public participation in the waste collection survey, and council had a standing resolution for that. So we did our research looking into various apps, and Lisa will correct me if I say anything wrong here. And we found the best one that administration liked, that is most public-facing friendly, easiest to use, basically all of the above, is the Recycle Coach app. So it is not budgeted, so that's why we're coming before council to ask for the money for this year. We believe we can launch it in the fall of this year. Thanks to Lisa and her team's many efforts, we have all the information that this app will require to input it. It'll just take us a couple of months to input it. And then we would ask that it be budgeted for in future years to come. Once we implement it, we'll just put it into the operating budget. So as council will see in the RFD before us, there's quite a number of public engagement opportunities that kind of sold us on this app. Specifically the What Goes Where, which a lot of people will refer to it as the Waste Wizard that Lethbridge has. This is a different app from what Lethbridge has. That company, we contacted them, they never got back to us. So this is not what Lethbridge has, but Leduc and Medicine Hat do use this to a great deal of success. So for one note that council might have questions on the languages, we did specifically ask because of our low German population in Tabor. We asked if that was one of the languages they offered. It was not, and neither was High German. If it may come in the future, but right now German is not one of their offerings. So this year we're not asking for any languages. We'd like to launch the app, and then we might use that as a public participation opportunity in the future to see what kind of languages we might want to use with the AAIP, with our population changing, things like that. And additionally, it's $200 per year per language. So that's something that we would like to really budget for in the future and make sure that we have the correct languages. We don't want to just buy them all and not need them. So hopefully I've given enough information, but if council has any questions, we're both here to answer them.
All right, thank you, Councillor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for looking into this. I think it's a very minimal fee if you consider all the fees that could be proposed for applications. And I think this is great, and thank you for looking into it, because I'm sure there's maybe 100 out there to decide upon. And there's always Google Translate. It's a great app for those that maybe need more information translated. So I would be in favor of this.
All right, thank you, Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Also speaking in favor of this app. It does way more than I expected. It's awesome. I think there's some really valuable information that you'll be able to gain from it. I just had a question about the increased cost every year. It goes up a little bit every year. It's budgeted, I'm guessing the $2,700 for 2023 is because it won't be a complete calendar year. And then $3,200 for 2024 and $3,600 for 2025. So does it increase every year, or why is the price different for 2024 and 2025?
I'm going to say that's a very fair assumption. Just based on technology, added features, things like that, it just is the cost of doing business. And you're correct that it does not cost that much this year because it is not a full year.
All right, thank you. Any other questions arising? Councillor Rudd?
Yeah, I'd like to make the motion, Mr. Mayor. That's okay.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I love this. It's great. Sooner the better. I'll make the motion the council approves $2,700 to be allocated from the council discretionary fund for the purchase of the Recycle Coach application in 2023 and directs administration to include the application's pricing in future operating budgets.
All right, thank you. Councillor Beckering?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am not speaking for or against the motion, but I'd like a question asked, answered here. It says it takes approximately a month for 3 members of administration to implement this thing. That's a lot of man hours, isn't it?
We're not going to get lucky.
So actually, they do the bulk of the setup. We only have to provide them with a couple of our like mapping and the addresses and that kind of thing, and it takes them a month to set it up. So it's not really our staff time, it's included in the price of the setup fee, so it's their time. We just have to provide them what they need to get it rolling, and what like our recycling offers and what we accept, and coach them on for that part of it. So.
All right, thank you. Councillor Brown?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A question just to this. The 27 to 32 to 36 does concern me a little bit. I'd like to, can we cancel this app at any time? Like, I don't understand why it gets more expensive every year. It's an app, it's designed, it does the same job.
Our information technology manager tells us that it's a 3-year contract. So if at the time, at the end, that council's no longer happy with the service or the costs, then our contract will come for renewal and we can find something else.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. We do have a motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. On to item 7.3, slow your roll signage policy. Mr. Tebow.
So we'll get Miss Megan Brennan to stick around, and she can speak to the policy.
Thought you were to me,
Right,
but I'm
thank
still
you.
here. So this is just a regular 3-year renewal with a minor change in the slow your roll policy. So for those councillors who might not be aware, those are those little yellow signs that people can purchase, and they can put them out on their boulevard and say, hey, watch out, in the area kids are playing. It's kind of a slowing down traffic in residential areas initiative. So 3 years ago when this was introduced, council said, no problem, we'll allow it as per our land use bylaw and our traffic bylaw, but it's the coordinator who's a private citizen out in the community that runs it. The policy just outlines that it's allowed within the land use bylaw. So the minor change that you'll see, the original policy named the section and numbered it, and just for ease of use, we just removed the number out of it and just referred to the land use bylaw in generalities. So otherwise, it's just a regular renewal.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? So we're prepared to make that motion. Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council approves the slow your roll signage policy C-11 as presented.
Thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 7.4, proposed asset management policy. Mr. Tebow.
Mr. Blake Karanik will come and speak to our new proposed asset management policy.
All right, thank you. Gentlemen,
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council.
good afternoon.
I am here before you today to present the proposed asset management policy PSPW4. The intent of the asset management policy is to facilitate the logical, methodical, and informed decision-making for the town's asset management program to achieve greater life cycle management and effective allocation of resources. There's currently no financial implication with this proposed policy. Administration will continue to gather data on all asset classes and intends to bring back the findings to council for future resource allocation. And there is currently no impact to service level or staff resources. Administration may request additional staffing resources in a future operational budget request. That's all I had there. Do you guys have any questions?
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Councillor Firth.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify. So a lot of this is already happening. This just amalgamates it all into one comprehensive policy.
That's right. It just formalizes it. Every department's doing it to an extent now. It just brings it all together.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Rudd.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I've had a look at this. At 4.1.2, I mean, you've said a couple of times that there's no cost, you know, perhaps in the future.
Yes.
So I was just curious because I think that section 4.1.2 speaks to that or allows for that to take place at some point. So I'm just wondering what kind of cost we're going to anticipate. Is there going to be software behind this to operate it, or are you going to have to get a coordinator to take care of things?
So that's a great question. Through that FCM grant that we received, we actually had funding allocated for a software system. So we're just formalizing getting into that system right now. And in terms of future resources, it depends what senior administration comes back with once they determine if it can be done in-house or if they need to hire a coordinator. But at this time, we're not making any requests for that resource allocation.
Okay, follow up, Mr.
Sure,
Mayor?
you bet.
Yeah, it's just a little concerning that, you know, we're kind of setting ourselves up, not really setting ourselves up, but making ourselves aware more that it might take someone to operate this. And as one question was asked, it's already operating, you know, throughout departments. And so I hope that we don't look at, you know, a position just to manage one policy like this, when department managers should be on top of that type of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Beckering.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Reinig, is this asset management required by legislation under the MGA or not?
So tangible capital assets are required. as per the legislation for the MGA with the finance side. Asset management itself is not, but it's common practice amongst municipalities. And really, for an example for you guys, I believe it was last year for the overlay project. Mr. Scheer was still here, and you guys asked him if the budget that they allocated was enough, or what would they need in the future to repair all the roads in town. He threw out a number out of his brain, and it was an educated guess. But through asset management and the software and the data that we put into it, we'll be able to give you guys an actual number based on real information and not just a best guess. So I would say most other municipalities are doing this to a certain level. We would be kind of in the middle there, but it is common practice amongst municipalities, but it's not legislated by the MGA.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I think we're kind of asking the same question, but going roundabout. So the program hasn't been purchased, and my second question would be, has the grant money been spent, or is it allocated towards the purchase of that program?
So right now we're working through that grant. The software was purchased, and we're actually migrating from an old, obsolete asset management system into a more industry standard system. So that work is ongoing right now, but we haven't spent all of the allocated funding through that grant.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions arising? All right, so I'm prepared to make a motion. Councillor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd be prepared to make the motion. The council adopts the asset management policy PSPW-4 as presented.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. On to item 7.5, department reports. We'll go through those individually. If anybody has any questions, please advise accordingly. First off, Recreation Plan and Facilities Development Department report. CAO Department report. Administrative Service Department report. Engineering and Public Works Department report. Councillor Rudd.
Yeah, I'd just like to say congratulations to Ryan Gilbertson. I noticed in that report that he had received another certification for safety in his field. And I think that's a big accomplishment for him, and like to go on the record as congratulating him. And we just goes to show we got quality people working here. And 56 open work orders. Those guys are busy.
They are, absolutely.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
You bet. Thank you. Councillor Firth.
Thank you. I just had a question about the residential collection and diversion. I noticed that every month when we get these reports, it seems that the general waste percentage is going up and the recycling is going down, and compost kind of fluctuates throughout the year. So I'm not sure who necessarily to direct the question to, but I'm wondering if there is a reason that our recycling diversion is decreasing and our general waste is increasing, or if there's a way to reverse that trend.
Mr. Thibault.
I think unless anyone's going to hop up to the stand, we'll probably have to take that away. If Lisa can speak to it, sure, come on up.
So yes, the compost does fluctuate. It goes pretty much non-existent in the winter time and then back up in the springtime, summertime. Recycling, I've noticed that trend as well. We're hoping, especially with this app, that we can do a lot of marketing and a lot of, maybe get stickers with QR codes, put them on the carts, anything to educate them more, let them know what they can and can't put in there, where they can take other items. I think this will be a really good component to try to renew the educational aspect to the residents, because it has gone down, and the waste a lot of times over winter, and then people are doing spring cleaning, and then they do fill them up a lot more. But we're hoping that we can get those numbers back up with this app and more marketing.
All right, thank you. Councillor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and just before Miss Lisa leaves. Yeah. Again, I believe there was, with the carts, if you're putting improper waste in certain containers, there was a warning system. Is that continuing?
Yes, that's being done through the police department, through their community standards officers. They, and we order the stickers for them through our department, but they put them on and let them know whether or not they're, not following the rules or something like that. And our drivers, actually, we have stickers for them that they can say exactly, you've put something incorrect in there, please take it out, or give them feedback that way. And that's still ongoing.
All right, thank you. Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, Lisa, is it true that at one time we could put glass in the recycling bin, but we no longer can? Is that correct?
Yes, we did, because at the time where we were sending the materials, accepted glass. Right now they go to Lethbridge's MRF, and they don't want the glass in there. I'm currently looking at solutions for that. We would probably have to set up a collection down at the transfer station in our recycling area there so that we can accept it. But then, I'm in the works on that, but I need to find a concrete where we're sending it after it's collected, right? Because I can't take it to Lethbridge, so I have to sort that out because of cost versus that kind of thing. And I'm also looking at batteries. So we're trying to expand on our program for the residents, but it's gonna have to be done a different way.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I follow up on that?
Absolutely, you bet.
Yeah, because, isn't that automatically then the case that your recycling would decrease and your garbage weight will increase because of the bottles? And I drink a lot of wine, so my bottles go in the garbage now.
You should take them to the bottle depot.
Oh, they only work for me.
Yeah, it does the different weights of things. Recycling isn't that heavy, and those numbers that I include in there are based on tonnages, so it is less weight.
All right, thank you. On to Public Works Treatment Facilities Department reports. HR Department reports. And Fire Department reports. No other questions whatsoever, all right. No motion required. Moving on to item 7.6, Mayor and Council reports. Councillor Sorensen, would you start us off, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just as the summer hits us, our meetings are a little bit less, so I attended our meetings and I'm enjoying the summer break. And I would like to just thank all of the administration for all the programming that they're doing for our community.
All right, thank you. Councillor Rudd. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I went to, went to 3 meetings. I went to the South Grow AGM, which was probably the biggest venture out, and there was a lot took place there, and I'm hoping that we get somebody to occupy that position after today. And I don't know if it would be appropriate if I took a minute right now, Mr. Mayor,
Sure.
to say it is with deep regret and not a lot of satisfaction, a little bit of frustration, and maybe even a little bit of anger that I have to step down from my council seat, and that's due to a change in the administration of the victim service function in the province of Alberta, which as it affected the community of Tabor, the victim service operation will now be under the police service, directly under control rather than a public board, which it was under. Victim service was reporting to the TCAPS board. So consequently, in accordance with the Municipal Government Act, that puts me in a position of conflict of interest because of who signs my paycheck, and that will be coming. The money will now flow through the town as opposed to flowing through the board, and that's what makes all the difference. And there was to no avail. The solution could not be found. So, yeah. So I wanted to say thanks to a pretty terrific administration and to a great council. I've really enjoyed working with you guys, and it was a great learning experience for me. It's not an easy job. It just isn't, and but I've enjoyed the challenge that it presented in my life, and I appreciate, the community that supported me when we had our elections, and I hope that doesn't disappoint them too much, and because that's just not right. I don't like to not finish things, but here I am. So I had to make it a choice, and we are transitioning in that function, and there's a lot of I can add to that. So it's kind of why I leaned that direction. So, and that my contract there finishes before this contract, by the way. So anyhow, we can chat later about it. And thanks, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. Councilor Bruin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a follow-up question to Councilor Rudd. Are you quitting council or are you quitting your other job?
Oh, that wasn't that clear.
No,
I'm stepping down from council.
our
So,
council here.
This council right here, yeah.
Well, I'm very sorry to hear
Yeah,
that.
you're gonna be sitting by Joanne now.
Well, I'm very
Or
sorry to hear
the
that.
incumbent. Yeah, thanks, Jack.
All right, well, thank you so much, Councilor Rudd, for your many efforts to this stage, and I understand and respect your decision. We shall miss you, but again, thank you so much for all your many efforts, and it's been a pleasure as well, working alongside you on council. Thank you. All right, Councilor Bruin. For department, for reports, yes.
I'm still flabbergasted by hearing that we won't have Councilor Rudd here anymore. I attended a Highway 3 general meeting, MPC and Recreational Board. Did all the meetings I was required to attend. I was not able to make it with coffee with council, I regret, but did what I could.
All right, thank you. Councilor Firth.
Thank you. And I just wanted to say to Councillor Rudd, sorry to lose you as a colleague. I've enjoyed working with you, but I'm glad that we're going to be able to retain your talents in the Victim Services Department. Thanks for that. And as far as my report, I attended all the meetings I was required to. I also attended the Tabor Special Needs Barbecue, the Promoting Tourism in Southern Alberta event that was held in Coaldale. Mr. Roger Brooks spoke at that. It was great, really inspiring. I attended the Pride flag raising at the Provincial Building, the Seniors Week Pancake Breakfast, the joint MD of Tabor, Town of Tabor, and Chamber of Commerce meeting, the joint meeting between the Town of Tabor Council and Coaldale Council. I toured a couple of grade 1 classes from St. Pat's School in Tabor through the administration building with the help of Mr. Thibault. Assisted with the TP setup for National Indigenous Peoples Day as part of the Tabor Police Commission, and I attended both sessions of Coffee with Council.
All right, thank you. Councilor Beckering.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I attended about 1/3 of the meetings that Council Firth attended. Good job, Carly. Nothing special to report, Mr. Mayor, except to say that I'm sorry to see Councilor Rudd announce his resignation. You are a great student, sir, and thank you for your service.
All right, thank you. And for myself, I attended a variety of meetings, also checking document signing requirements. I did attend the Tabor Public Library block party. Also attended Tabor Special Needs Appreciation Barbecue event. I attended the W.R. Myers Mennonite School, high school graduation. Also attended the Royal Canadian Air Cadet Tabor Squadron 225 annual inspection event. I attended the Seniors Week kickoff pancake breakfast, Parkside Manor. Also attended the Seniors Week trivia night, Parkside Manor. I attended the Kinsman Special Recognition Dinner event for Citizen of the Year Awards at Parkside Manor as well. And attended a joint meeting with council, with Coaldale Council as well, along with the rest of our councilors. I did also attend the Coaldale Link Pathway groundbreaking event for a path to be linked from Coaldale to Lethbridge. I attended the Kids Can Catch event at our Tabor Trout Pond with roughly 150 in attendance. It was very well done. Administration and town supported as well, and thank you to the many sponsors who made that happen. Also attended the Coaldale official grand opening for their new Civic Square building. I attended the National Indigenous People Days event right here at Confederation Park. and also attended the Tabor Filipino Society volleyball tournament at Tabor Christian School. Attended the grand opening at Horizon Dental Clinic, and I attended the St. Mary's High School graduation ceremony event. As well, I did attend both Coffee with Council events, and recently myself and Mr. John Orwa did complete a irrigation video for the governor's office in Saya County, Kenya, at their request, with our own Donna as our videography consultant. And so she did a very good job for us as well. So I believe they're happy with that, Mr. Orwa. So I haven't heard anything more, but I think they were satisfied with that, showing the wheel line irrigation in operation format for future consideration. All right, that would be my report. Any questions for any of the reports? All right, no motion required. Standing item, council requests, item 7.7, Mr. Tebow.
All 4 items still remain in progress, so there's no update from Mr. Tebow. But knowing that there was coffee with council, perhaps there's something coming administration's way.
All right, thank you. Any council or standing council item requests? New item requests here. Councilor Bruin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had some photos sent to me about the Tabor Ken McDonald campground facility there. They're very disappointed on the way the grass looked there. It's very dry. Looks like it hasn't been irrigated. Right across the fence is the Legion Park, and it's nice and green and well maintained. They just wondering why we are not watering and maintaining the campground area at the Kenmac Park.
Mr. Tebow?
Administration has also seen those pictures. I don't think it's a case of not watering it, but I don't know 100% what's led to that. I know administration has been working on it. We did have a bit of a stumbling block at the beginning with TID, and one of our pump houses got flooded. So we definitely had a slow start to our watering.
Councilor Bruin.
The concern will be that we're having a big event there, the Cornstalk festivities, and if we water it a lot now, it's going to be a bit muddy. So that's coming soon, and we want to make sure it's in good shape for that, so the town looks good.
All right, thank you. Councilor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I just, I wonder if there's the actual ballpark and they're maintaining it, them kind of helping maintain it. Maybe that's why it's a bit greener, because, you know, they're trying to get ready for some tournaments and so forth.
No, I was referring to the Legion Park, the fence that divides the Legion Park and the camping area. The Legion Park's beautiful, nice and green, and right across the fence, it's brown, looks like prairie. So just concern that was raised to me as probably well as others.
All right, thank you. Any other standing item council requests? All right, seeing none, I would ask for a motion to move into closed session until our 5 o'clock delegations, please. Councilor Sorensen.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Mayor, that we move into closed session.
Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Perfect, thank you. All right, if we reconvene the meeting, please, on to our delegations. Item 8.1, presentation to Mr. Brian Gladys, found property claim. Mr. Tebow?
Mr. Mayor, the property has been put on the podium, so if you could come down and do the presentation.
Well, there we go. All right, Mr. Brian Gladys, thank you for attending. And thank you so much for doing your due diligence with the found property. And it's gone past the required time frame. And you've applied for that particular item. It has not been claimed. So we're happy to turn that over to you. And thank you so much for your efforts in making this happen. All right, thank you, Brian. You're welcome. Perfect. Thank you so much, Brian.
Thank you, Brian.
Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Prepare to make a motion
Very well.
that council thanks Mr. Brian Gladys for his honesty and integrity in turning in the found ring to the Taber Police Service and commends Mr. Gladys for his honesty, strength of character.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. On to delegation 8.2, Taber District Housing Association, Clearview Lodge. Mr. Tebow.
I see Mr. Jensen has arrived, so come on up to the podium, sir, and give us what you got.
Mr. Jansen, welcome. Just as a reminder, it's roughly a 10-minute presentation, and try to keep it as close to that as possible. We do have some question and answers likely afterwards as well, so the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for having us here today. And there we go. Do you have the slides that I sent on? There we go. Perfect. Thank you. So this is a presentation that many of you have seen when we met over at the MD of Taber in April. But we were asked to put a few more numbers together and come back to each of the individual councils with an ask. So if you can advance to the next slide. Quickly, some of the renderings done for the building. Can you carry on? The new proposed entrance area, atrium, a new courtyard. So we had some thoughts of the things that we needed to do at the lodge. You can carry on next slide. So overall, we have an expansion wing, 4 stories, so 3 stories plus a basement. That'll have 44 new bachelor studios units, approximately 360 square feet, with some other spaces developed in the basement. This wing is considered net zero ready in terms of the envelope, insulation, the form of heating that is used, and in-room ventilation and heat recovery units. There actually would not be a natural gas service for this part of the building. 2 elevators for public access, but they're situated in such a way we can actually easily designate them as staff for work use and for resident and visitor use. Can you advance the next slide? So the second part of the work to be done would be the modernization of the existing facility. So taking the units that are there, many of them making 2 into 1, so we end up with 38 units in the existing footprint. Some size around 300 square feet to up to 480 square feet. 19 bachelor units and 19 one-bedroom suites. There's also a new meeting area off of the atrium, consolidated office space and bistro, and also very much updating our current mechanical and electrical system. We want to try and create a situation where we can be as energy efficient as possible while also keeping it comfortable. Next slide, please. So this is the Class A costing we had prepared for September of 2022. We are in the process of having this updated so that we can present the most current numbers, and they are also identifying a few items that could be value engineered. The goal is that we want to achieve the functionality. We are less hung up on form, but it is about creating a good living space for the residents of our community, and hopefully making it so that it will be there for the next 50 years. Can you advance one more slide? So that's basically where we're at. We do have a development permit. Town of Taber has been gracious enough to extend it. We have construction drawings that are not printed, but are at the point of requiring a final review for preparing bid documents. This does give us an opportunity to value engineer. I will say that we've hesitated to perform the value engineering right at this point. We want to identify potential areas, but to actually do the work prior to having an approval may mean that the funder says, well, that's nice, go and do it again. So I get it, the costing facilities is an iterative process, but I think we would much rather see, okay, then if that's the way you feel, set a target for us, and we'll see if we can build it for that. Next slide. So this comes to the Affordable Housing Partnership Program rolled out by the government in January of 2023. They opened it for 30 days and received, I think, 70 applications. Cherry and Maine would have been one of those. The key issue is they will not provide more than 1/3 of the funding. The one big takeaway I saw from the funded projects, there was one for a chunk of the money for a lodge, but it came down to the communities had attached a check to their letter of support. They already knew where 1/3 of their money was coming from before the provincial government also threw in. Next slide, please. So we talked about this, and I survived the meeting, so we were braver to come back and actually, okay, put to paper, what is the ask? And I still am trying to weasel off the hook, because you'll see that there's actually a second slide. But this slide is the request to cover off 1/3 of the project total, as we currently know it now, based on the tax assessment values that we use in the requisition process. The MD Council got to me before I got here, so they asked me to add a second slide for consideration, because this is a request based on population. And you can see it's a very different split. And to be honest, I don't know what the right answer is, and I suspect that will require a lengthy discussion, maybe even arm wrestling. I don't know. Perhaps Darren and Arliss have to go into a room and hammer it out. I don't know. Somewhere maybe in the middle of, indeed, there are more people in the town of Taber that would access that service. Perhaps then one should look at what's the weighting of senior population. I don't know. Ultimately, we hope this building will be there for 50 years. I think it's a reality to say that 2 of your partners would very much struggle with this formula. The smaller municipalities would very much struggle with this sort of ask. I guess my ask is that you consider this, and I believe the process is already starting to see administrative peoples getting together and talking and seeing what is the best way for Taber and District Housing Foundation and for the municipal.
Ask of the MD, this one? It's just their formula here?
I think I shouldn't speak for them. They wanted it brought, because I said, what could I add to make my presentation better? You were the first people to see it. And they said, well, we would, at least want to have that discussion. Should some of it be population-based? Yeah, the previous one is based on tax assessment value. So there's a significant difference between the splits between the MD and Town of Tabor, depending on which criteria you use. So that's, and to be honest, I think the MD has also said, well, what borrowing capacity does Tabor and District Housing have? It seems that we may have more than I thought we did, but it also is something that must be approved by the minister. So we really can't borrow a nickel without them saying the say so. And I think their biggest thing is they don't want to get us into trouble and be in a situation where there's something we can't repay. But there definitely are different ways that the community investment might come for something like Clearview Lodge. We do have some capacity to requisition. So, with blessing of the municipalities, with understanding of the ratepayers, there are some housing management bodies that have requisitioned funds for buildings.
All right, Councillor Sorensen?
I just was gonna add to this conversation that there was this discussion afterwards, I believe, and this was one of the proposals, so definitely wasn't discussed in the meeting, but this, I believe, was a conversation that I was a part of afterwards. And so
All right.
that's probably how it came
And
about.
I will say that, I've tended to, our requisition formula is very much set. It's based on the tax assessment, and even there's, I think, an equalization amount that's specifically set in the documents set out by the government that we use for assessment. And so that's how we base on our operating requisition every year. So I simply mirrored that for a much larger amount.
All right, Councillor Rudd?
Well, that's the question I was going to ask. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. About what is the standard way to make that calculation, and you just answered that by saying it's tax assessment. And I too recall that after conversation, and so basing it on a population is not out of left field or anything. It's not somebody trying to weasel, but I know part of the conversations that I had afterwards as well. On the cost there, it's 8, 4, 5, 6, and did a quick math and said, well, 4.25 each, done. And take that home and see what you can wrangle out of it. So, but anyway, thanks.
All right, I think that's financial questions for now, Mr. Johnson. Anything further in your presentation? Councillor Beckering?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Jansen. If this project would proceed, and hopefully it does, would that increase our requisition?
I'll use weasel wording. It depends. The hope would be that there's an equity investment by the local partners. The hope would be that and the experience is that the provincial government would be equity. So again, a grant. The goal would then be from the federal partner, CMHC, that we would apply for a grant. I can't say with certainty that 100% of the money coming from the federal government, CMHC, would be a grant. There's definitely bonus points and bonus percentages because we're not for profit, we're senior housing, we're affordable housing. There are favorable things, but I can't say with certainty it's 100%. What we did was we created a business case based on the operating costs that we currently have, based on the revenues that we currently have, across the number of people that would be in this new building, the energy, like utility costs that we expect to have there based on our energy modeling. And we believe that this will be a sustainable building at our current level of fees charged to tenants and at our current level of requisition. Now, I won't say there would not be some effect for inflation. I don't think we can hold the number forever, but I'm not expecting a significant jump in requisition. What I will say is that because there's so many variables, how do you figure in carrying debt? If there's a debt amount that is to be carried by the Housing Foundation, then there likely would be some impact on the requisition. So probably not what you want to hear, but I think that's probably the fairest assessment, that if we are needing to borrow money, then there probably is going to be some. The reality is it's not a cash cow. Our goal is to provide an experience at a rate for people that is affordable, which means that sometimes other funding sources need to pick up the slack.
All right, thank you, Councillor Beckery.
Yeah, just to follow up, if I may, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, if I look at the two comparisons regarding the tax assessment model and the population model, of course, they vary widely. I would suggest perhaps a hybrid might be used in this particular case to come to a solution. But I do agree with you, Mr. Jansen, that our two smaller partners would have the toughest time. No doubt about that, to contribute.
And so I'm terrible at the political game and the bureaucratic game. My job is to try and make it work at Clearview. But I suspect what would happen is that a meeting of the minds, there are 4 groups that are not that big. They all know each other, and they get into a room and they'd figure it out. Because I do get the sense that everybody wants the project to work. It's just kind of the how and how expensive. And so we are trying to do our part with looking at ways to be as efficient as possible, value engineering, yet also trying to make sure that we don't have a building that looks worn in 5 years. So there's a balance there. And that's, I think, when you talk about a hybrid approach, I would expect reasonable people coming together and finding that solution. My only ask really is, we don't know when the next application intake would be. My hope, I hope in a way that it's a while from now, maybe this fall. But I guess then I also hope that we've worked through these issues now and had those conversations so that when the application window comes, we're ready. Because I think the last thing I want to do is be calling Darren and saying, like, I have to be on your docket to talk because I have 30 days to have this application in. So that's my hope, is that the ball is now rolling, that we can continue to keep it rolling and come to a fruition. And ultimately, until there's funding, it's a commitment. There's no dollars attached to it. Now, I realize that's naive, that once you've made that commitment, there's dollars attached to it. But dollars don't have to move until such time as there's actually, we're moving dirt.
All right. Mr. Thibault.
Mr. Jansen, you'd mentioned you talked to the MD. Have you also talked to Barnwell and Vauxhall at this point?
I've presented to Vauxhall. I'm reaching out to Barnwell. And at last I heard there was some movement afoot that the MD, I think, was looking to try and get people together to meet. I think likely to speak to the hybrid type. So I had not heard if those had gone out yet.
So yeah, the MD did provide an email to that effect. I was just wondering from administratively if everyone had been talked to in
yeah,
all the groups.
I need to talk to Barnwell yet. I did talk to Rachel at that meeting, but I haven't actually been in front of their council yet.
Good, thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions arising? Councillor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I think I've been a part of certain boards, and I've been hearing this discussion for several years. and it's not getting any cheaper. And so I would just like to commit to that. I think the community does need this facility to be renovated, and I would support the model that was proposed on, of course, the first amount, the 2.8. But yeah, I definitely feel that the community would be in need of this renovation, and I'd like to see it moving forward, and I think that was the sense in that joint meeting.
All right, thank you, Councillor Broom.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I, of course, really want to see this done. We're all getting older, and the longer we wait, you know, we have, since I've been on council, this is the 10th year or so now on council, this has always come forward. It's time something has been done. Model 1 looks very, very good to us because we're not paying as much as the MD, of course. The second one is getting closer. I think it's something perhaps the two bigger MDs may have to, or regions have to look at contributing more. And I'd like to expand on what a little bit Councillor Rudd was saying. Maybe the MD and the town's going to have to look at splitting this cost with an infinite number, and let's get this thing going.
All right, thank you. I just wonder, Mr. Jensen, if there's been any discussion about inviting the minister, or be the new minister now, right, to attend for a tour and or.
You know, we haven't, but indeed, there is a new minister, and that it would be an excellent idea.
Yeah, I think that's really important, Mr. Jensen, to have that individual attend and sooner than later, and do whatever we can to show the need, and again, reiterate that seems to be the general consensus. I think looking to move this project forward and to come to fruition at some point sooner than later.
Who's the new minister? Jason Nixon, Calgary.
Yeah, so just a question, I guess. I assume that would be a TDH each requirement, Mr. Thibault, or could we also do that in a joint with the MD, I guess, or tri-party invite even?
The minister request, you're asking
Yeah.
about that?
Right.
There's nothing stopping us from asking the minister to, inviting the minister.
Yeah, I think
down.
maybe just do a tri-party letter and or CC Barnwell and Vauxhall also, and try to get him here as soon as possible. Everybody in agreement with that?
Yeah, that's okay. The answer's gonna be no anyway.
I'm not sure about
Councillor
CC
Brown?
and Vauxhall and Barnwell. They should be part of the letter as well. Like, on behalf of the 4 districts here, communities that we invite the minister. So the town of Vauxhall and Barnwell also is involved with this, of course. I think the more communities we have on this letter, the more important they'll look to the
No,
minister.
we could, yep.
I think CCing them does no good.
Councillor Rudd.
Yeah, I mean, I'd speak in favor of our motion that we have crafted here about just getting the work done. Let's get at it. But I think it's important. The current investment right now is at 600. You know, where we are today with the project, all the money that's been spent.
Right, yeah, we probably put about $600,000 in the planning and the design work. And a significant amount of it went around, how do we fit what we need onto the property? And because that was a decision that the board made some time ago, that the location is so good. But it did mean that, you know, greenfield construction is the easiest and cheapest. You go out to a bare piece of land, and even, you know, we have a lot of work to do on how do you renovate units that people yesterday were living in. So there's very much staging of construction, moving people around, and decanting is the technical term, from one area to another, and it will have some amount of effect on our revenues because I guess we see it as a positive, but the 100 wing, the northernmost, easternmost wing was added, I think in the 1970s. It actually is a complete unit. It's 12 units. So we've had preliminary discussions with Safe Haven. Honestly, if they didn't want it, I probably would look, and if I can't get Cherry and Main built, I would look at it as a potential social housing unit for a single bedroom. And we actually had Wade's go look at it, and he said, shoot, we could pick this up in an afternoon. And he said something about, and I didn't realize this, that Tabor has very wide right-of-ways and avenues and streets. He said, we can do a parade down 50th and 50th. So it's a very decent structure. So we're trying to figure out how we can recycle things and use it for other things in the community to get the maximum effect from this project.
Yeah, and my point being, Mr. Mayor, that we get that over $600,000 into it, so
Right.
you know, no turning back.
Right.
I think that's significant.
Yeah, it is. It is. Like Councilor Bruin indicated, it's been going on for quite some time. So I don't know that anybody's against this at all that I've heard. Certainly not on our council. It sounds like the MD is on board with that. I'm just not sure about Vauxhall and or Barnwell, I guess, right now. Mr. Tebow.
Just a question for you, Mr. Mayor. Is there a request for administration to create this letter, or was it a request to Mr. Jansen to create the letter?
I think that was
and
my
get our
ask.
support?
I guess, like I said, if we're going to do a joint letter, I think administration can do that. That was kind of my initial question.
Okay.
Or Mr. Johnson, would you be more comfortable with that?
Either or. I would probably lean on Darren's
Yeah.
wisdom in crafting it, but I don't mind being a part of that as well.
Right.
Okay, so I guess the request was, I'm asking for a motion, I suppose, to that effect, so that administration can start that, and we'll do that
With a
the-
five parties
with the
sign
parties
us
we need.
letter. Right. Okay. All right. Sure. Sure. Whoever's going to do that motion, absolutely. If they can add that to it, that would be preferred. All right. Very well.
Here we go.
All right.
I move that council requests that administration investigate the municipality's debt limit, potential regional interest, and including an invite to the Minister of Housing to Tabor and other factors to determine if the Tabor and District Housing Association Clearview Lodge expansion and modernization project is a recommended and viable project, with information to be brought back to a future council meeting for further consideration. And I think that's good enough because it talks about potential regional interest. That should be inclusive language to make sure that the other communities are involved.
All right. Thank you, Councilor Sorensen.
Just a friendly amendment if we should include our own local minister, MLA Grant Hunter.
Oh, CC grant
Yeah.
accepted.
For sure. All right.
Accepted.
All right. We have a friendly amendment by 2 motion on the table. Councilor Beckering?
So she's seeing everybody, there's one more. Emily Shaw, Vauxhall's got Shaw.
That's right. Scow.
Yeah.
Joseph Scully, that's correct. All right, accept that amendment as well. A tri-party
Acceptable.
amendment motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Great, thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
All right, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you, Tim.
We got 2 years left as council. I'd like to see this start before we're done.
We would all.
Yeah. All right, on to media inquiries, Mr. Tebow.
There are none.
All right, we do have 4 required motions coming out of closed session. Item 10.1, Councilor Firth.
I move that council appoints Bethany Mitchell to the Tabor Municipal Library Board for a term expiring December 31st, 2025.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 10.2, Councilor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I make the motion that council authorizes the lease renewal of property located in the main lobby of the large ice arena located within the community center, 4720 50th Street, to Rick is the last sale. I don't know how to pronounce that. Zalisax, thank you. and Ben Phillison for a 5-year term to expire March 31st, 2028, and directs mayor and a chief administration officer to sign the lease renewal documents.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 10.3, Councilor Rudd.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council authorizes administration to manage the ongoing leases for the Highway 3 downtown business signs and directs the mayor and chief administration officer to sign the lease agreement documents as per the following list of lease agreements. 1 through 12, Tabor IGA, Napa Auto Parts, The Loft Real Estate Center, White's Plumbing and Heating, Oilman's Tap House and Grill, Mar and Soul Liquor Store, Remax, Wes's Country Meats and Sausages, Saunders Insurance, Tabor Floor Coverings, and Johnson Drugs.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 10.4, who was doing that one? Councilor Sorensen?
I'm happy to announce this one. I make the motion that council authorizes the sale of the property owned jointly between Douglas J. Bergen and Associates and the town of Tabor, located at 4925 72nd Avenue, Tabor, Alberta, in the Meadows Development in the amount of $255,000, and council authorizes chief administration officer and the chief elected official to sign the sale documents on behalf of the town of Tabor.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And just a motion to close the meeting, please.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
All right.
Stand by.
Motion
Stand
on,
by.
all right. Councilor Rudd. Making
Oh,
that
no,
motion.
you wanted to close the meeting.
That's right.
I'm not ready.
You don't.
Oh, okay. All right. You have a question?
I just want to say, myself, and I'm sure the rest of us included, what a pleasure it's been to work with you, Mr. Rudd, on council. And whoever steps forward to replace your seat is going to have big shoes to fill. It's been an honor working with you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. And Councilor Rudd.
And with that, Mr. Mayor, I move to close the meeting.
All right. Thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor?